All right, we're going to do Unit 1, Learning Target 3 today. We're going to look at the ancient laws of the laws of ancient societies. As you can see on the screen, there's two laws that primarily we're going to focus on: Hammurabi's Code and the Ten Commandments. In order to understand the Ten Commandments, we're going to have to understand a little bit more about Judaism as well. But we're going to start off with Hammurabi's Code. Now, centuries before the Sumerians became very weak, the area of Mesopotamia became very weak, and around 2350, a guy by the name of Sargon of Akkad, he captured the Sumer territory and decided to build the world's first empire. An empire brings several people together that were previously independent states. It puts them under the control of one ruler. Now, for 100 years, about 100 years later, a different group conquered the Sumerians. These people built the capital at Babylon and established what we call the Babylonian Empire. Their leader decided that they needed a legal code to help ensure that people followed particular laws and that there would be certain punishments for infractions on those laws, so to speak. So these people, they were led by a guy by the name of Hammurabi. King Hammurabi is most famous for his code of laws, as you can see on the screen. He was king from 1792 to 1750 of the area we call Mesopotamia. His laws were severe. They were specific. They had particular punishments for certain crimes, and they helped to ensure uniformity within the empire. It helped judges with penalties. However, it also made clear that the government had some responsibility in taking care of the people. There were approximately 282 written codes in this law code. It was one of the earliest forms of legal systems. It was regulated the people's relationship with one another. These laws were on a stone pillar, as you can see on the left. This pillar right here is where it was made public for all to see. Therefore, all must obey it. Now, the impact Hammurabi's Code had was it established the idea that government regulates civil and criminal matters. This means that the government had control over people that committed crimes. They could punish them and hold them accountable. It reflected the idea that punishment should fit the crime, and they established the idea that all in society should follow the legal code. However, based on your social status in Hammurabi's system, could impact what the punishments were made. In other words, a person that was higher, say, in the social classes may not be necessarily put to death, but would be charged a fine instead. Unfortunately, this happens in our society today. It happens anywhere from celebrities to people that are in the political realm that have political stability. So these are some of the things that that made Hammurabi's Code a little different. Hammurabi's Code established or applied the principle of retaliation. You've heard the saying, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, probably. This is how what they used to punish for crimes. The code set out goals for the body of law. Hammurabi reinforced the principle that government had a responsibility of what occurred in society. For 2 centuries after Hammurabi's reign, the Babylonian Empire it fell apart after Hammurabi died, and over the years, new groups dominated the Fertile Crescent. People such as the Assyrians, the Phoenicians, the Israelites would adopt many of the ideas that the Sumerians had. Meanwhile, a similar pattern of development would arise in other areas. The Code of Law, however, was the footprint for future law codes to come. So now that we know a little bit more about Hammurabi, now we're going to look at another set of code, which we refer to as the Ten Commandments. in order to understand it, we have to understand a little background about where it came from. The ancient Hebrews or Israelites lived in an area known as Phoenicia, in an area occupied present-day Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan. Because of their location, they were deeply influenced by civilizations of both Mesopotamia and Egypt. According to their tradition, Abraham was the father of Judaism. He grew up in Mesopotamia in the city of Ur, and later he moved to Israel. Unlike other ancient people, the Hebrews did not believe in many gods. Instead, they believed in one universal God. This we call monotheism. He was both just and powerful, and a religion known as Judaism emerged because of this belief. Jews did not believe that God had human characteristics or a head or a body of an animal like gods and goddesses did in Mesopotamia and Egypt. They saw their God as an invisible but powerful force or spirit that created the world and demanded proper moral conduct. Monotheism became the basis for several later religions such as Christianity and Islam as well. So it was Abraham can be linked to both Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Now, the earlier history of the Hebrews, the relationship with God, told us that the Bible, known as the Old Testament to Christians, tells a story of the Hebrews or the Israelites and their journeys. According to the Bible, the ancient Hebrews migrated to Egypt to escape food shortages because of a massive drought. They remained in Egypt for hundreds of years and became enslaved. Their leader, a guy by the name of Moses, later took them out of Egypt and freed them from slavery. This goes into the idea of parting of the Red Sea and so forth. Moses also was presented by God the Ten Commandments. These came directly from God, and these commandments forbade stealing, murder, adultery, other forms of immoral behavior. They also commanded the Hebrews to worship one God and keep the Sabbath or day of rest. These became the moral basis for both Judaism and Christianity and continue to be that way today. The organized tradition of monotheism or belief in one God is reiterated in these Ten Commandments. Because of its origins of Christianity are rooted to Judaism, the Ten Commandments are often considered by many Americans as the foundation of the United States Code of Law. This monument sits outside of the courthouse in Oklahoma City, I believe. Sometimes it's placed in judicial buildings and other structures. Today, many people are trying to get it out of some of these buildings, saying it's a violation of constitutional rights. Before we move on, Hebrews returned to Israel from Egypt around 1000 BC, and they found it was occupied by new people. This led to a series of wars, ending with the Jewish reconquest of Israel. The Hebrews then established their capital in Jerusalem. This leads us into our activity today. Hopefully these notes have helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.